Hello, Brian Weeks here again with another MMCD contract consideration. This video clip will cover the topic of why GC12 may not be enough. General Condition 12 in the MMCD deals with the discovery of unexpected hazardous materials during the course of a construction project. The Master Municipal Construction documents were specifically designed to create contracts for subgrade municipal infrastructure such as sewers, water line, and other utilities. The very nature of this type of work implies unknown conditions. Since it is not practical to do geotechnical investigations continuously along the proposed route of a new project, we must expect surprises. One type of surprise is the discovery of unexpected hazardous materials. A core philosophy supporting the MMCD is that risk should be apportioned based on who can best manage it. Also, we do not want bidders to have to include large contingency amounts for unknown risks on every tender. So how do we put these objectives into effect concerning hazardous materials? First of all, let me be clear. Our GC12 provision for hazardous materials is a fallback or contingency plan when unexpected hazardous materials are discovered. Because the definition of what is a hazardous material is very broad, the MMCD does not provide specifications for handling any specific type. You can appreciate that the required handling and treatment of petrochemicals from leaky tanks at a former gas station site would be different from those required if the contamination was heavy metal from a former foundry, or from those required if the project was to replace an old asbestos cement sewer pipe. If an owner anticipates there may be hazardous materials encountered, the owner is obliged by law to disclose that expectation in the tender documents as a potential safety hazard to workers. Beyond that, the owner has a couple of choices. First, the owner can make the responsibility for handling and disposing of the hazardous materials part of the obligations of the contractor. Or the owner can set out the rules for a contractor standby or project termination if hazardous materials are to be handled and disposed of by the owner's forces or by another specialist firm engaged by the owner. If the owner wishes the contractor to handle and dispose of expected hazardous materials, then the tender author must create a line item in the schedule of quantities and prices for each type of hazardous material expected. Customized specifications then need to be written to link each of these new line items, instructing the contractor on how the material is to be handled and disposed and on what basis the contractor will be paid. But let's assume that the owner has no reason to anticipate that hazardous materials will be encountered and return to the issue of risk. In order that the contractor not include a risk allowance for the discovery of hazardous materials, GC 12.1 makes it very plain that the risk remains entirely with the owner. The owner is not obligated to do any testing before the tender is offered, nor is the contractor obligated to do any testing once on site. Furthermore, if the contract administrator requires such tests or investigations be done, then the CA must issue written instructions to the contractor. Because such testing is beyond that expected at time of tendering, a change order will be required to cover both the cost of doing the testing and any disruption that may cause. Should either party even suspect that hazardous materials have been encountered, that party must give notice to the other and any required regulatory agencies. At that point, the contractor must stop work in that location and secure it to prevent further disturbance and to protect the public. The contract administrator must investigate and provide written instructions to the contractor on how the situation will be handled to enable the contractor to proceed with the rest of the work in the most efficient manner possible. The instructions must be prepared in consultation with the contractor to take advantage of the contractor's expertise in order to minimize the additional impact costs the owner will bear as a result of the unexpected situation. The contractor must then strictly comply with these instructions and with all other laws and regulatory requirements regarding the hazardous materials. The discovery of hazardous materials will automatically entitle the contractor to a change order for the impact on the contractor's project schedule and operational costs. For example, planned work may have to be delayed or done out of sequence in a less efficient manner. Those would be reimbursable costs and an eligible time extension. Remember, GC12 is for unanticipated hazardous materials. By definition, then, this was not anticipated at the time of tender, and any work to deal with the hazardous materials automatically becomes extra work, not a change. GC 12.4.2 reinforces this. By making the handling and disposal of the hazardous materials into extra work, the MMCD gives both parties the ability to choose. The contractor does not have to do this work unless willing to do so. The owner does not have to offer it to the contractor, or if offered, does not have to accept or negotiate a price from the contractor. In fact, the owner can choose to issue a separate contract to a third party or even do the work with its own forces. In an effort to motivate the contractor to act professionally, the MMCD provides a reversing obligation for indemnification. If the contractor acts as a professional and mitigates the impact of the situation and the resulting additional costs, then the owner becomes obligated to pay those extra costs and to indemnify the contractor against any claims for damages made by third parties, excluding subcontractors. If, however, the contractor makes the situation worse, the onus reverses. The contractor then becomes obligated to pay any excess costs his improper actions have caused, and to indemnify the owner against any third-party claims for damages as a result of the contractor's failure. So to summarize, number one, GC12 is the MMCD's way to leave the risk of unexpected hazardous materials with the owner. 2. GC12 is a fallback provision only. If the owner anticipates there will be hazardous materials on the site, the owner must make separate provisions for it by providing additional line items and specifications. Number 3. The discovery of hazardous materials triggers the requirements for notification and further instructions. Number 4. The contractor is entitled to a change order for any impact costs resulting from the discovery and its effects on the operations and schedule. Number 5. Dealing with the hazardous materials is extra work, so the contractor cannot be forced to do it. The owner has full flexibility to choose anyone else to handle and dispose of this hazardous material. Number 6. Normally, the owner will indemnify the contractor, but if the contractor fails to perform as required, the contractor becomes liable to indemnify the owner. I hope this has helped clarify this contract consideration. Please check our website for further assistance and to see what other topics are presented in this series.